perhaps we will stay on this board number 3. Yeah, so Tigran Petrosian versus Sergei Zhigalko. Red opening is played. Black gives the bishop on f4 at quite an early stage. Black gets the center, black gets, well, free development, no problem at all, but Petrosian gets what he likes to get from this kind of position. So something very flexible, 2 bishops for white, and he starts to undermine the center. So c4. Well, what about capturing this pawn, by the way? So what I would call not being that practical is to spend time at such an early stage, but of course he's looking for the proper setup of his pieces. So queen c2. Now black has an important task to defend this pawn, I would say, because if black doesn't manage to keep the pawn on c4, that's gonna be 2 bishops for free, I would say. So now it can be e3, but then, yeah, e3 is a possibility. Then after queen d3, for instance, white captures and plays bishop e4. No, he decided to castle first. Then something like knight f6. Yes, black has to develop. And still e3 is... no, e3 is not possible anymore. e3, queen d3 this time. Oh, well, white has certain difficulties developing. And rook d1 in order to prepare d3 is, well, strongly met with bishop c5. Targeting f2. Well, white does have some problems developing his pieces. So, well, perhaps he has to settle for knight c3 and b3 later on. Yeah, that's what he does. Knight c3, b3, so this is a real pawn sacrifice, but still white gets pair of bishops and, well, in Blitz I would certainly call this one, well, enough of a compensation for white. So, well, queen on d4 will allow white to win couple of tempi later on. So b3, pawn takes, and I guess, well, a b3 is the... no, surprisingly, queen takes b3, knight c5, and queen c2 back. So once again, sooner or later, queen's gonna be driving away from d4. Now bishop e7, then rook b1. Well, so he's not in a hurry to define the position of pawns on d2, e2 pawns, so the most flexible out of possible structures. Queen d7. Well, something like a2, a4 is asking for itself, because bishop g2, another... well, h3 was hanging actually, so queen d7 was a move with tempo. Now black castles, and, well, I find it problematic to say what precisely white has for the pawn sacrificed. Well, if anything, black knight will be moved to e6, heading to d4. Yeah, black develops all the pieces easily, and just, well, I would say black is just a pawn up. So rook fd8, oh, well, that means other rook belongs to b8 perhaps, in Sergei Zhigalko's opinion. Bishop b2 fell. Black plays, white plays very flexible chess, but a bishop a1, another useful, well, it's quite a characteristic play for a Blitz style of Tigran Petrosian, and I wouldn't be well, I wouldn't be mistaken if I would say that, well, something like that he tries to imitate in a classical chess as well. So playing well, very flexible moves and wait for opponents to make mistakes, commitments, whatever. So, well, bishop is slightly better placed on a1 than on b2, so therefore this move is made. Rook c8, d3, and then, well, a4, queen a2. Well, white has few more moves. Yeah, b5. Perhaps a4 is advisable before playing d2, d3. Yeah, to stop b7, b5. Cause now, yeah, Black improved the structure pretty much. B5, then A6 is a possibility later on. Ah well, rook C1, now C6 is targeted. So something like, well, A5. This is knight B1. Well, knight B1 is the, yeah, concrete threat to capture on E5. And not so easy though. Not so easy. Well, it would have been better perhaps to play knight E6 instead of A5 first. Because now C6 is also under attack, and yeah, the queen E6. Now knight on C5 is not ideally placed. Knight BD2. A4, yeah, stopping knight B3. But then it gives, well, it gives white a square on B4. Zhigalko is on down to his last seconds. Well, black has a fantastic position, just he has some issues with the time. That might prove costly. Bishop A5, rook E8. Now something with a knight jump, I believe. Knight E4. Yeah, what happens if black takes? Perhaps bishop takes, but then it's queen H3. I don't know if he's spotted something. Yeah, it's queen H3. It's 2 pawns now. 2 pawns for black, and still hard to find any sort of counterplay for white. It's D4 followed by bishop F5. Well, now it starts to be... Well, it starts to get messy. Well, some sort of... well, queen H5. He's still in time with 6 seconds. With 4 seconds he made this move. Now he has 6 seconds. Queen H5 somehow still keeps everything. There is a transformation available if white takes on D5 and then capture on C8. But black is obviously out of danger. Bishop F3. An unpleasant intermediate move. Queen G5. Still didn't change much. So bishop D2. Yeah, that's amazing about Sergei Zhigalko. With so little time on the clock. So last move he made was 2 seconds only. He still manages to find very nice decisions and keeps the position, keeps his 2 extra pawns. Yeah, so 4 seconds only for Sergei Zhigalko, and not much more for Tigran Petrosian, as he is down to his last 10 seconds. Knight F6, quickly, and then after bishop D2, what he's gonna do? Now, black takes on E5 and bishop C3, queen E6. I mean, now it's all about making moves quickly. Black should be objectively in a very good shape. Oh, bishop A3, nice tricky move, and bishop F8 back. Bishop E4, G6 would have been... now it's not so important what's on the board. It's much more important not to blunder heavily. Bishop F3, queen goes back to F5, so he's ready to exchange. I'm not quite sure about this one. Now bishop E4 back. Now it was Tigran Petrosian to play it on the last seconds. What's wrong with G6? Yeah, indeed, G6 and H5. Yeah, now well, it would have been better to take on D2 first. Knight F5. So 2 extra pawns. B4, no. Yeah, it was possible to play B4. So this time, B4 and B3. Yes, if you have a passed pawn, well, and finally he blunders. He blunders knight E3.